Hello once again, and welcome to another edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. I'm joined by the Chief Agricultural Editor of SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hirsch, and the 620 CKRM Regina Agri-News Director, Ryan Young. I'm GX94 Yorkton Agriculture Director, Doug Falconer. And gentlemen, over the past week, seeding progress has continued. The Manitoba crop report says 96% of the crop is in the ground. Saskatchewan says 97%. Kevin, your take on seeding? It looks like it's almost wrapping up, except, of course, here in the east central region of Saskatchewan.
Yeah, and again, if we zero in on that one specific census region in the east central region, that Calder, Kenora, Pelly, Priestfield, Sheeho, and Yorkton area, their seeding progress is only 80%. So really, seeding is all but wrapped up in most areas, but that's still in the east central area, and within the east central area, that the smaller area there within, that's still a significant amount of seeding that hasn't been done, and not all of it is likely to get done. And we're to the stage where it's actually getting very late to do additional seeding of traditional crops and expect them to come out with a good result.
All right. And also this week, we heard that President Donald Trump made some comments concerning CUSMA, suggesting that he doesn't really care if the deal gets renewed or not, but he'll listen to, I guess, the discussions if he has to. Kevin, is this just Trump being Trump?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. It's hard to know whether he's saying what he means or saying what he thinks he means today and change his mind tomorrow, or whether this is a negotiating tactic. But he's been saying similar things about CUSMA for quite some time. It will be an uphill battle, and he's going to need to hear pressure from within his country and within his party pushing for a renewal of some sort of deal. I think that's the only way that he may be persuaded. But this saga is going to continue for weeks and perhaps months ahead.
Also this week, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe was in Europe for a good part of the week. And Ryan, you had a chance to participate in a conference call on that.
Yeah, I had a chance to listen to it, and much of the highlights that he mentioned were memorandums of understanding agreements signed with the Czech Republic and with Poland as well. Those were the particular highlights. They mainly centered around additional collaboration and cooperation when it comes to nuclear energy and other resources as well, but mainly nuclear energy. We are a major exporter of uranium here in Saskatchewan, so that is not a surprise there. But that's part of an overall trade mission that he was on with a delegation that visited 4 countries in addition to the Czech Republic and Poland. He was also in France and Belgium for some meetings. So the province continues to, diversify its trade portfolio, get new deals, strengthen trade relations, all part of a bigger picture here as not only Saskatchewan, but also Canada looks to diversify trade.
Kevin, I guess it's not a surprise to see Saskatchewan diversifying trade, considering all the rhetoric coming out of the U.S.
That's true. Interesting, though, I can't remember the last time that there was a high-level provincial trade mission to Europe. There's been many trade missions to many other countries around the world. Wondering if they're following a little bit in the tracks of the Prime Minister and on some of the inroads and the relationships that he's been establishing within Europe. But all markets are important, and markets outside of the U.S. Appear to be ever more important because we're not quite sure what to think about what our trading relationship is with the U.S. going forward. So I think it's great to go build these bridges. Memorandums of understanding don't necessarily mean a whole lot, but you have to establish relationships to get trade happening.
Also this week on Wednesday, the Canadian Western Agribition held their AGM, and Ryan, you listened in on that as well.
That's right. They had a number of highlights to share during the annual general meeting. Don't remember much of the numbers off of the top of my head, but what I can say is that there was a lot of increases year over year compared to the 2024 event, which is really good to see. And it just kind of shows how the brand of Agribition continues to grow and continues to expand its presence, not only in Canada, but also in other countries around the world. They've traveled abroad in recent years to Mexico and Australia and other countries as well. So it's good to establish relations there, kind of in a way, segueing from our trade talk just moments ago. But they were able to turn a profit as well in 2025. Looking at a chart that they had at the AGM, it was the first profit since 2022. And then prior to COVID, they had consecutive profits from 2015 through to 2019. So good to see a little bit of a recovery financially there. As Sean Kindop, the CEO, who was sharing all these highlights, said, it's a good thing to try to do this, and we try to make good business out of this, obviously. So again, that's good. Lots of increases when it comes to the exhibitor trade show growth. There's been more exhibitors that are at Agribition at 2025 compared to the previous year. Lots of sponsorships as well. Even their social media activity has grown considerably since 2024. They've had a 13.5% increase in followers alone. They've had 10.5 million impressions on their social media platforms. So really trying to capture that younger demographic with the social media aspect of Agribition. So another good particular highlight. And another interesting thing to come out of the AGM was just discussing the future of the event at Real District, considering that the deal between the City of Regina and the Brant Sports and Entertainment Group, which is part of the Brant Group of companies, they are finalizing their deal that would see, simply put, Brant taking over half of the facilities, about 7 to be exact, at Real District. That would include the Canada Centre, the Stockman's Arena, other facilities. The Canada Centre, that's where the Agribition head office is. So they're working to finalize that. And the transfer, from what I understand, is supposed to happen in July. So they were talking about just how it would work under Brant. And there's also kind of rumors about working with smaller space for this year's show. So they were kind of figuring out how to, work with the space that they might have, working some alternative solutions, shall we say. And then I learned today, actually, that there was a report out from the Western producer that there was a 30-day eviction notice that was handed to tenants at Canada Centre and the Stockman's Arena. That includes Agribition, obviously, and the Saskatchewan Stock Growers Association, among other groups that are tenants there. One of our reporters reached out to Agribition to confirm that report, and they said that it wasn't true. So that's kind of an interesting twist in that story. So we reached out to Brant as well for any details or confirmation on this. So stay tuned. This is kind of an evolving story as we speak.
Kevin, your thoughts on the Canadian Western Agribition and what has ended up turning into a bit of a saga there?
Yeah, I hadn't heard that. What Ryan relayed is the first I've heard that. It'll be interesting to get to the bottom of that and understand exactly what is the situation, what is the case, and it may not be as it was first reported. But what caught me in the Agribition statistics and financial results was how important Agribition is to the city of Regina and the tourism industry in Regina, hotels and restaurants, in what's really an off-season part of the year, and how much the hotels are filled up, how much extra business the restaurants have through Agribition. It's really a boom to the Queen City.
Also this week, you had a story, Kevin, about fertilizer prices. And of course, many people were saying that they're up quite high because of the Strait of Hormuz issue. But you did some research and maybe prices are going down a bit?
And I think it's going to depend upon the particular commodity. I'm not very optimistic that phosphate or sulfur prices will come down. But nitrogen prices, despite what some of the analysts have been saying, have come down substantially in recent weeks. And probably that was accelerated a little bit by the peace deal and what we believe is the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. But in the height of seeding, for urea fertilizer, nitrogen fertilizer, 4600, the prices I were seeing at local farm input supply stores were in the range of $1,250 a ton. I wanted to do the research for myself for whether I should be buying fertilizer this summer or this fall and see where the prices are now. And now the quotes that I've received are well under $800 a ton. So still not exactly cheap, but certainly a lot better than what we saw at the height of spring seeding. And it sort of indicates that the fear that there would not be a reset was misplaced. Indeed, nitrogen prices have come down quite dramatically, and that bodes well for the cost structure in 2027.
Also this week, Ryan, you had a chance to speak to the president of the Canadian Cattle Association, Tyler Fulton, as well as the CEO of Alberta Beef Producers about their ongoing dispute. And of course, there seems to be a truce until now, at least until August 31st. But tell me what you were able to glean from those interviews.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, about 8 months ago, the Alberta beef producers, they announced a formal intent to withdraw their membership from the Canadian Cattle Association effective July 1st this year, unless a number of concerns of theirs were addressed. Now, they basically boil down to financial transparency, governance structure, specifically representation from the province of Alberta, and some other detail that's not coming to mind, unfortunately. But those are basically the main concerns that Alberta beef producers had. Now, fast forward to now, they announced a interim participation agreement, which will keep ABP within the fold for at least a few months until August 31st. So ABP will be able to provide some gap funding for the national organization as they continue to work out some of the details and some of the things that they need to work on in order for ABP to kind of come back to the organization. In my interview with the chair of ABP, Doug Roxburgh, he said when they started breaking the governance structure down at CCA, it was a lot more complex than their three initial concerns. So they needed more time to kind of not necessarily fix things, but work things out. So that's why part of the reason this agreement is in place. They'll still be able to participate in meetings and discussions, but as non-members, that's kind of a little bit of a niche thing, a language thing in the agreement, just to say to members of ABP that, we're still kind of at a distance. We're still working things out. We're kind of on the outside looking in, but we're continuing to move in the right direction. So kind of the plan is to have these recommendations done in place for, excuse me, got a bit of a cold, for the CCA board to vote on the recommended changes by the governance committee. Once that's done, then it'll go to a vote to provincial members at the semi-annual meeting in late August sometime. And then it will finally go to the Alberta beef producers to see if they want to stay around or not, if the changes address those concerns, and their AGM is scheduled for December. So that's kind of the latest there.
Kevin, obviously efforts have been made to appease the Alberta beef producers. If the extension now till August 31st, sounds like they're on the right track to perhaps resolving this issue.
I certainly hope they do. The industries are so small, we don't need infighting within any sector. We have some infighting between sectors sometimes, but within the same sector, the beef sector, really we need a united front. And perhaps there were some legitimate concerns in governance and financial management that Alberta has raised, but hopefully common sense will prevail and they'll work their way through these and come to a solution that works for everyone. That would be the best result.
All right, and finally, we were looking at the price of canola on the ICE futures canola market over the past week, specifically new crop canola, the November contract, and it's gone down a fair bit over the past week. Kevin, what is your reaction to that?
Yeah, new crop November canola futures price is down something like $30 or $32 a ton Friday to Friday as we're taping this. And really it's following the price of oil down. The price of crude oil has come down dramatically. Biofuels, and that is a primary use for canola oil, follows the price of petroleum. So it has come down substantially. Almost every day it took another notch lower. So that is a worry, and you know, at some point people were going to kick themselves that they didn't lock in more new crop prices when they were considerably higher than what they are right now. But of course, these things are tough to know. Things go up or down. Geopolitical situation changes dramatically. You hate to lock in a crop that's still in the early stages. You're busy with seeding, but we may look back on this come fall, and the prices may be significantly lower than what we could have locked in at futures prices. But that's certainly the direction right now for canola, has been a softening look, both old crop and new crop.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. On behalf of 620 CKRM Regina Agri-News Director Ryan Young and the Chief Agricultural Editor for SaskAgToday.com Kevin Hirsch, I'm GX94 Yorkton Agriculture Director Doug Falconer, saying so long until next time.